Pisces' manager played victim after throwing me under the bus. The cameras didn't. The vibrant pulse of Chicago had always been Sarah Jenkins' rhythm. Each morning, the crisp autumn air, often carrying the metallic scent of Lake Michigan, invigorated her as she navigated the bustling sidewalks of Lincoln Park. Her small, meticulously organized apartment, with its exposed brick and a single sun-drenched window overlooking a leafy street, was her sanctuary. By 7:30 a.m., she was typically on the L train, the rhythmic clang and hum a familiar backdrop to her morning news scroll. Sarah, 32 years old, was a senior marketing specialist at Aurora Solutions, a prominent digital marketing firm nestled within a gleaming skyscraper in the Loop. Her office offered a breathtaking panorama of the city, a concrete jungle meeting the endless blue of the lake, a view she never took for granted. She loved her job, the intricate challenge of crafting compelling narratives for diverse clients, the satisfaction of seeing campaigns flourish. Her colleagues, particularly Mark, a data analyst with a dry wit and an encyclopedic knowledge of spreadsheets, were more than just coworkers. They were her workday anchors. She was good at what she did, known for her meticulous attention to detail and her ability to anticipate client needs, qualities that had marked her as a rising star within Aurora Solutions. A promotion was on the horizon. Whispers of a team lead position had reached her ears, fueling her ambition and countless late nights hunched over her laptop. The city lights her only company. Her ambition was now entirely focused on the upcoming Stratagem Global pitch. This wasn't just another client. It was the biggest account Aurora Solutions had ever pursued, a multi-million-dollar opportunity that could redefine the firm's trajectory and, consequently, Sarah's career. For the past 4 months, she had poured her soul into developing the presentation. Every slide, every data point, every projected ROI had been meticulously researched, analyzed, and polished. She'd sacrificed weekends, canceled plans, and powered through countless cups of coffee, all driven by the thrill of delivering something truly exceptional. She remembered countless brainstorming sessions in the glass-walled conference rooms, the hum of the fluorescent lights reflecting off the polished dark wood, the city's skyline her backdrop. This project was her magnum opus, a testament to her dedication and skill. She'd meticulously cross-referenced every figure, flagged potential discrepancies, and sought multiple internal reviews, always seeking perfection. Her manager, Olivia Thorne, a woman in her late 40s with a perpetually serene expression that belied a razor-sharp, often ruthless, ambition, was a different story. Olivia, a Pisces by birth, embodied a certain stereotype. Charming and empathetic to those above her, often seemingly fragile, but to her direct reports, she was a master manipulator, capable of throwing subordinates under a bus with a smile and a sigh. She had a knack for delegating critical, high-risk tasks while retaining all the credit for successes. Sarah had learned to navigate Olivia's mercurial moods, always ensuring she had written documentation for every directive, a habit born of necessity after a few early incidents where Olivia had conveniently forgot previous instructions. The day of the internal pre-briefing arrived, a crucial dry run for the senior management team before the actual stratagem pitch. The air in the conference room on the 32nd floor was thick with anticipation. Sarah, dressed impeccably in a charcoal power suit, felt a surge of nervous excitement. She clicked through the presentation, her voice clear and confident, explaining the strategy, the creative concepts, the projected financial impact. Everything was going smoothly until she reached the slide detailing the 5-year financial projections. Suddenly, the usually stoic CFO, Mr. Davies, raised an eyebrow. "Sarah," he began, his voice calm but firm, "can you explain this particular figure here? The projected Q3 growth for year 3 seems optimistic, to put it mildly, given current market trends." Sarah's heart lurched. She stared at the slide, her mind racing. She remembered that specific figure. She had flagged it, raised a concern about its aggressive nature, and suggested a more conservative estimate weeks ago. Olivia, however, had overruled her, insisting on maintaining the higher projection to show bold vision. Sarah had documented this exchange, but in the heat of the moment, with the CFO's eyes fixed on her, her mind went blank. Before she could formulate a response, Olivia smoothly interjected, her voice dripping with an almost theatrical concern. "Oh, Mr. Davies, my apologies. Sarah, I explicitly told you to double-check those projections. I even sent you a note about it last week. That's a rather significant oversight. I trust you haven't put that number in the client-facing deck, have you?" The words hit Sarah like a physical blow. The note Olivia referred to was a vague email sent days after the discussion, a general reminder to ensure all data is thoroughly vetted, not a specific directive regarding that particular figure. It was a classic Olivia move. Plant a seed of doubt, then harvest the blame. Sarah opened her mouth to protest, to explain, but Olivia cut her off with a saccharine smile. "Don't worry, Mr. Davies, we'll get this corrected immediately. I'll personally oversee the revisions. Sarah, please make a note of this. We can't afford such errors with stratagem." Olivia turned back to the CFO, her gaze earnest, her expression a perfect blend of diligence and disappointment. "It's a good thing we caught this internally. Imagine the embarrassment if this went to stratagem. I spend countless hours reviewing every detail myself, but sometimes a fresh pair of eyes catches what even I might miss. I'm just glad I spotted this before it became a real problem." The room's temperature seemed to drop 10 degrees. The senior executives exchanged glances. Sarah felt a burning flush creep up her neck. She was being publicly humiliated, thrown under the bus with a practiced, almost artistic precision. Olivia had painted herself as the diligent, detail-oriented manager, the one who caught the grave error, while Sarah was cast as the incompetent, careless junior who almost jeopardized the firm's biggest deal. The Pisces manager played her victim card perfectly, portraying herself as the long-suffering leader burdened by an unreliable subordinate. Sarah's carefully constructed reputation, years of hard work, seemed to shatter into 1,000 pieces right there, in that polished conference room, under the gaze of Chicago's skyline. The rest of the pre-briefing was a blur. Sarah sat numbly, her gaze fixed on the cityscape outside, feeling utterly hollowed out. When the meeting finally concluded, she was summoned to HR. Mr. Harrison, the head of human resources, a man known for his calm demeanor and strict adherence to protocol, was present, along with Olivia, who now looked genuinely distressed, almost tearful. "Sarah," Mr. Harrison began, his voice devoid of warmth, "this is a serious matter. We pride ourselves on accuracy and excellence. An error of this magnitude, particularly on a pitch like Stratagem Global, is unacceptable." Olivia nodded gravely, occasionally dabbing her eyes with a tissue, murmuring about the pressure on the team and my responsibility. The outcome was swift and brutal. Sarah was put on a 3-month performance improvement plan, her upcoming bonus was rescinded, and the long-anticipated promotion was frozen indefinitely. Her career trajectory had not just stalled, it had plummeted. She left the HR office feeling a profound sense of injustice, her mind reeling. The familiar Chicago streets felt alien, the city's vibrant energy now a jarring contrast to her internal desolation. She walked aimlessly for hours, the biting wind off the lake doing little to cool the fire of humiliation raging within her. Back in her apartment, the sanctuary felt suffocating. She collapsed onto her sofa, tears streaming down her face, the quiet sobs tearing through her chest. The injustice of it all was overwhelming. She replayed Olivia's performance in her mind, the feigned concern, the subtle shift of blame, the masterful manipulation. How could someone be so cruel, so calculating? She felt betrayed, not just by Olivia, but by the system, by the apparent ease with which her hard work had been dismantled and her reputation tarnished. Doubt crept in, insidious and sharp. Had she really been so careless? Had she missed something crucial? Was she, after all, simply not good enough? The despair was a suffocating blanket, isolating her from the world, from her friends, from her own sense of self-worth. She called Mark, but his support was cautious, tempered by the implicit understanding of Olivia's power. "Look, Sarah, she's well-connected. Just keep your head down for a bit," he'd advised, his voice filled with sympathy but also fear. Days bled into a week, each morning a fresh wave of dread. Sarah went through the motions at work, a ghost of her former self. The office felt colder, the smiles from some colleagues tinged with pity, others with suspicion. She was adrift, lost in a sea of corporate politeness and unspoken accusations. One evening, staring blankly at her laptop screen, trying to make sense of the damage, her eyes fell upon a familiar folder icon on her desktop. Project Comms Log. It was a habit she'd started years ago, a digital archive of every significant email, every meeting agenda, every presentation draft, every piece of feedback she'd ever received on a project. And within it, another subfolder, a more recent addition, labeled VT Audio. VT Audio. The letters stood for verbal transcripts. A chilling realization, then a spark of something potent, ignited within her. Months ago, after a particularly frustrating incident where Olivia had denied giving a specific instruction, leading to a minor but irritating setback, Sarah had started recording key verbal interactions. Not every conversation, but specific high-stakes discussions where Olivia would provide critical, last-minute directives or dismiss Sarah's concerns with a wave of her hand. It was a cautious, almost instinctive self-defense mechanism. Inspired by a true crime podcast she'd listened to about corporate malfeasance and the importance of documenting everything. She used her phone's discreet voice recorder app, always ensuring it was on silent, tucked away in her blazer pocket or on her desk, disguised as a notepad. She never thought she'd actually need to use them, but the fear of another Olivia-induced ambush had made her meticulous. A flicker of hope, cold and sharp, cut through her despair. She opened the VT Audio folder, scrolling through the date-stamped files. There, she found it. A recording from 3 weeks prior, clearly labeled. Stratagem Projections Review Olivia's Office. She clicked play, her breath catching in her throat. The muffled sounds of Olivia's office, the clinking of a coffee mug, then Olivia's voice, crisp and confident. "Sarah, those Q3 Year 3 projections. They're high. Are you sure about them?" Sarah's own voice followed, clear and professional. "I've cross-referenced them, Olivia, but they do feel aggressive. I'd recommend we present a more conservative range, perhaps a low-end and high-end scenario, to manage expectations. Or, at the very least, double-check the underlying market data from the external consultants." Then Olivia's dismissive tone, a slight impatient sigh audible. No, Sarah, we need to show conviction. We need to be bold, just trust the numbers. We're on a tight deadline, don't overthink it. Let's keep that figure. I'll sign off on the final deck anyway." Sarah's blood ran cold, then hot. There it was, undeniable proof. Olivia had not only known about the aggressive projection, but had explicitly overruled Sarah's suggestion to mitigate the risk. And her casual, "I'll sign off on the final deck anyway," was a clear indication of her ultimate responsibility. This wasn't just a note about vetting data. This was specific, direct, and completely contradictory to Olivia's performance in the pre-briefing. As she listened, another detail from the pre-briefing flashed into her mind. The new office tower, a marvel of modern architecture, had recently upgraded its entire security system. After a spate of minor equipment thefts and a heightened focus on data protection, the firm had invested heavily in state-of-the-art surveillance. The ubiquitous security cameras, initially installed for common areas, had been discreetly expanded. She remembered the corporate memo, glossed over by most, detailing the new asset protection and compliance measures, which included internal surveillance in all major conference rooms and even some open-plan areas. The specific conference room, where she had been publicly shamed, was one of those glass-walled rooms, now equipped with high-definition cameras, subtly integrated into the ceiling, almost invisible unless you knew where to look. A cold, steely resolve hardened within her. The Pisces manager might have played the victim, might have used her calculated charm and manipulative tactics to throw Sarah under the bus, but she had overlooked one crucial detail: the cameras. The cameras didn't miss a thing. They had not only captured Olivia's theatrical performance during the pre-briefing, but potentially also the subtle, almost imperceptible interactions that had preceded the incident. Sarah realized her advantage wasn't just her private recordings. It was the entire ecosystem of documentation, both personal and corporate, that Olivia had unwittingly created by her own duplicity. The plan formed slowly, meticulously, in the quiet solitude of her apartment. Sarah wasn't interested in a loud, dramatic confrontation. She wanted justice, precise and undeniable. She meticulously compiled her evidence. The email threads where she had shared early drafts with Olivia, Olivia's vague, looks good replies, her own internal notes flagging the projection issue, and most damningly, the voice recordings. She didn't want to seem vengeful. She wanted to appear rational, methodical, and simply seeking to clarify a grievous injustice. The next morning, Sarah requested a meeting with Mr. Harrison, the head of HR. This time, she wasn't a distraught subordinate. She was a professional with a clear, concise agenda. She sat across from him, composed, her emotions carefully controlled. "Mr. Harrison," she began, her voice steady, "I understand the seriousness of the situation regarding the Stratagem Global pitch. However, I believe there are facts that were not fully considered during our last discussion." She started by calmly presenting her project communication logs, the emails, the documented warnings, the dates. Mr. Harrison listened, his expression neutral, occasionally making notes. He seemed intrigued by her level of detail, a clear contrast to Olivia's vague generalities. Then, Sarah introduced the voice recordings. "I started recording key verbal directives and discussions, Mr. Harrison, because of a pattern of miscommunication, where verbal instructions would later be denied. It was a personal precaution, not intended for this purpose." She then played the recording of the conversation in Olivia's office, where she explicitly raised concerns about the Q3 projection, and Olivia dismissed them. Mr. Harrison's expression shifted. His eyebrows furrowed. These personal recordings, while unusual, they do present a compelling counter-narrative. He paused, then continued, "However, they are not standard corporate documentation." Sarah anticipated this. "I understand, Mr. Harrison, but I believe there's corroborating evidence within the company's own systems." She leaned forward slightly. "The pre-briefing where I was publicly reprimanded was held in Conference Room C, correct?" He nodded. "Yes. And Aurora Solutions recently upgraded its security and compliance surveillance system, extending coverage to all major conference rooms, including C." Sarah asked, almost casually. Mr. Harrison's eyes widened slightly. The security system was his department's responsibility, yet the implication hadn't occurred to him in the context of this specific incident. "Yes, that's correct. For asset protection and compliance." "Precisely," Sarah said. "Compliance. Mr. Harrison, I believe the security footage from Conference Room C, specifically during that pre-briefing, will clearly show the dynamic as it unfolded. Furthermore, if you check the footage from the open plan area around Olivia's desk from approximately 3 weeks ago, during the time of my recorded conversation, you might see further contextual evidence of our discussions. The cameras, sir, didn't miss a thing." The implications were profound. An internal investigation was immediately launched, far more thorough than the initial HR meeting. Mr. Harrison, now fully invested, retrieved the security footage. The high-definition cameras in Conference Room C provided a chillingly clear visual account. Olivia's dramatic performance, her feigned distress, her cutting remarks aimed at Sarah, and Sarah's visible shock and humiliation, it was all there, undeniable. Then came the footage from the earlier date, showing Sarah at Olivia's desk, earnestly discussing the projections, followed by Olivia's dismissive gesture, a casual wave of her hand. The visual narrative perfectly aligned with Sarah's voice recordings. The Pisces manager's carefully crafted victim persona crumbled under the weight of irrefutable evidence. The investigation quickly unearthed a pattern of Olivia Thorne's manipulative behavior, her habit of delegating blame, and her calculated deflection of responsibility. Multiple current and former employees, emboldened by Sarah's courageous stand, came forward with their own stories. Senior management, who had always seen Olivia as a charming, results-driven star, were appalled. The image she had so carefully curated was shattered. Olivia Thorne was let go from Aurora Solutions for violations of company conduct and integrity policies. The announcement terse and clinical, a quiet dismissal designed to minimize internal disruption. Her departure was swift and unceremonious, a stark contrast to her public persona. Sarah, on the other hand, was fully exonerated. Her performance improvement plan was immediately lifted. Her bonus was not only reinstated but significantly increased, a gesture of corporate apology. More importantly, she was offered not just the team lead position, but a newly created role, Director of Compliance and Project Integrity, a direct report to Mr. Harrison, with a mandate to ensure transparent and ethical project management practices across all departments. It was a position tailored to her meticulous nature and her unwavering integrity. The office culture began to shift, subtly at first, then more perceptibly. There was a new air of accountability, a renewed focus on fairness. Sarah's quiet resilience, her methodical pursuit of truth, had not only cleared her name, but had also become a powerful catalyst for positive change. She had earned respect, not just for her marketing acumen, but for her courage in standing up to injustice. Her revenge wasn't loud or destructive. It was precise, factual, and undeniable, delivered with a quiet strength that resonated far beyond the walls of Conference Room C. The cameras, silent witnesses, had played their part, ensuring that the true story, unvarnished and undeniable, finally came to light. Total characters: 21,873.